So, Alex, I think you might be muted. I don't hear you. Oh, no, you're not muted. What is happening? Wait a second. We were just talking, everything was fine. Oh, no. Oh, my. This is not good. It's so great to see you. What we're gonna do is this. Hang tight. I'm gonna stop this live stream real quick, and we're gonna try to figure out this sound issue. I apologize, and we will be right back. Okay, give me 1 second. We'll be coming back live in just a second. Sorry. So what we're gonna do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're gonna keep moving forward with our cool podcast. Alex is going to pretend as though he is about to go to mime school, because that is actually one of our sponsors for this podcast. Is Mime. Mime is a sponsor for this podcast. Alex, feel free to use your hand gestures. You can be in a box. You can kind of do a cool like fishing thing. You can do all kinds of new mime tricks. You can do the telephone thing. You can do the elevator thing. I can't really go down. Or escalator, like the steps, and then you can come back. You can do a lot of it. So I'm not sure how the universe has muted Alex. It could just be the greater universe felt that Alex just needed to be muted, and then now we've kind of lost Alex somehow. But let's see. Hold on, he's joining us again. He's here. You're in the green room. Can he come back? Can you talk? Alex, wait. I think I hear you.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, praise the universe. That's
on the air. It says I'm in the broadcast.
You're in the how were you not in the broadcast? It doesn't make any sense. That's technology, folks.
Thankful. I'm so thankful to be in the broadcast. I think my Zoom got COVID. I don't know what's happening, David.
I think your Zoom. But this isn't even Zoom. We were.
What is this?
It's a new kind of thing. It's called eCam. It's I'm not gonna. I don't really want to. It's a cool thing. I use it for my solo performances, and this is a cool thing that we've been able to do. And now we're able to kind of come out and do this live on the Books of Face, and so we're still, it's still new technology. Although I'm gonna just go ahead and blame it on the Rona, that your internet got the coronavirus, and that's probably what happened.
Okay, look, we got 12 beautiful people watching. Why don't we just hop right into it?
Let's just do it. Let's just hop right in because we have an amazing guest today. So let's go ahead and bring out our guest. He is an amazing camper. He's a fantastic musician, all around good guy. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring into the podcast that is absolutely not a podcast, Sam Paulka.
Sam Paulka.
Mr. Sam, thank you for
Alex. What's happening?
Thank you for hanging out in the green room, I suppose, is where we had you. Though we don't know. The internet is being kind of fun tonight. But thank you for hanging out. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and do this for fun.
Absolutely.
Sam, you look so professional in your twisty chair there, and the books behind you.
Yep, as professional as I can get.
He does. It's Professor Sam.
Yep.
Professor Paulka.
We'll have to call him Professor Paulka for the rest of the night. So Alex, now that you have your mic back and you have joined the vocal world.
Broadcast, yeah.
Broadcast.
Now that I'm in the broadcast,
right.
Sam, I'd love to ask you, where are you from?
Well, I am from Nashville, Tennessee originally. I lived there for 6 years before I moved to St. Louis, where I currently reside. I really like it here. It's very nice. There's a lot of stuff to do just throughout the city, and it's just like it's a really nice place. I've had a good time while I've been here. The people in my neighborhood are really nice. The people I've met in the community, just in general in school are all really nice. It's just a really good place in general.
Is it cold right now there?
I didn't know you were born in Nashville. How long did you live in Nashville? Was that?
I lived there for 6 years. I was in Gallatin, which is just really close to there. So I lived there for 6 years. I attended like a Montessori school there for a little while, and then my dad got a job offering in St. Louis, and so we moved here, which took a little while, but eventually we got here, and we were living in a duplex for just a little bit on the top floor, and then we found a house actually pretty close. I live pretty close to the duplex now, and we've lived there since we moved, and it's an old house, but it's really nice. And so there are a lot of old houses on our block that have a good amount of historical significance.
That's cool. I mean, I love like those like how like the is it like a historical part of St. Louis, or is it sort of just outside the city, or is it kind of in the middle of the city?
It's like it's not the city center, but it's it's pretty close, near to the inside of the city. It's near downtown St. Louis. It's fairly close to a lot of the main attractions. We're only 10 minutes away from the Arch-ish, so I've actually never been to the Arch, which is kind of sad given the fact that I've lived here for a really long time and I only live 10 minutes away. But we have never gone to the Arch.
You can see it, right? You can see it from like everywhere, I thought.
We've driven past it on vacations before, but never actually been there.
Oh wow. I think that's easy though, because like when you live in a city, it's like you don't tend to go to sort of like the landmarks or sort of the more touristy places. I mean, I lived in New York for a long time, and it seemed like the only time I would go to the Statue of Liberty or something would be if someone were in town and like, oh, I want to go visit that place. So, and Sam, tell us a little bit about because this is for folks who are joining us on Facebook Live. Some of you may kind of not know because Alex Barone's intro had coronavirus. This podcast, which is called David and Alex Totally Rad Podcast, that's totally not a podcast because it's not really a podcast. But we are with the organization Camp No Limits, and we are really using this platform to sort of interview folks that are involved in our camp. Now, our camp is a camp for kids who were born with limb difference or limb loss and their families. So that's a lot of the population we serve. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're sort of taking these deep dives to get to know our community better and find a way for us to connect and get to know each other and learn from each other in the process. So Sam, I apologize for having to jump back for a little introduction, but just for folks who would be like, what are you talking about limb difference? What is that? When I bring it up. So can you talk a little bit about your limb difference and just kind of give us a sense of your experience with that?
Yeah, so I was born with Poland syndrome, and it caused me to be missing all of the fingers on my right hand and also the majority of my right pectoral muscle. And so, I've had it since birth. Just, I'm not an amputee. I had it since birth because of Poland syndrome. Actually, something funny was that the doctors, prior to when I was born, thought I had a heart condition from the ultrasounds, but it was actually just my limb difference. Just, I guess they didn't get it right. But so yeah, I've had this limb difference for a while, and I don't really use many prosthetics in my life. Just day to day. I I do use a singular one for violin, but so yeah, I'm generally just don't use prosthetics because I'm kind of able to just do the things that I need to do without having one. But so yeah, so it's definitely been interesting having a limb difference just because there are situations that people generally might like take for granted and just be like, oh, this is a new situation. Here we go. I can do this. Whereas I guess if you have a limb difference, it's something you have to think about. It's not just like something you quickly fix. You have to kind of adapt to what goes on around you so that you can, perform well in whatever you're trying to do. And so, I think that's definitely been a challenge as, I'm, getting older, just like finding new stuff. It's just like you have to find a different way to do it. But it's still good. It's it's interesting. It keeps life interesting for me.
Yeah, I tell people a lot of times it's sort of like you have to think about things almost like a little bit of a step ahead. When it's sort of like, and it kind of comes, and it is this sort of flow. And I think you're right. As you get older, you start having other tasks or more tasks than you've had to do, or your parents aren't there to kind of do other things for you, and you're kind of having to figure it out on the fly. I think that's kind of cool too, is that you do, sometimes you have to kind of think just a little bit ahead, and then other times it's just like, oh, I just came up with that on the fly and totally figured it out. Thank you there, Graham's. That's
Five
absolutely
fingers
right.
are
5 things overrated,
overrated.
dude.
Thank you, Graham.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is an interesting thing. This difference between congenital and trauma. I think you touched on that too. It's sort of like you for those that have a congenital limb difference or limb loss, it is sort of an interesting journey to sort of those steps of learning to adapt, which is really cool.
And you mentioned like a singular prosthetic you use for violin, Sam. I know
Yes.
how active you are all around because we're Inspire program buddies. But for our audience here that don't really know you, like, can you tell us what you do for fun, like sports and instruments and all the fun stuff you do?
Yeah, sure. So I've been playing violin for around 7 years now with the help of a prosthetic. I'm actually looking into getting a new one just because the old one definitely served its purpose for the time frame that I was using it in for violin. But as I'm learning new stuff, it becomes harder and harder to use that prosthetic. So we're actually having some college students at Wash U decided for a project over, I think winter it was just this past year, that they were going to try and design a prosthetic for me. And it got cut short by COVID, but what they were coming up with was really cool just for me because they came up with it out of nothing, and it looked like it was really going to work. And so I think we're still kind of pressing on that idea once COVID kind of lessens a little bit and we have the opportunity to kind of, meet with them again. But so yeah, so I've been playing violin for a while now. I also do Taekwondo as a hobby. I've been doing that for, I think 5 or 6 years now. I got black belt probably a year ago, maybe it's a little bit more than a year ago. And I'm
Watch
due
out,
to
David.
I'm due to test
It's like,
really. Yeah,
you
I'm
can
due to
beat me
test
up through the internet.
Yeah. Watch out.
He's like, yeah,
Man.
I will.
Yeah, so I'm due to test again soon, hopefully. I've been going to in-person classes recently just because by this time we've kind of figured out what will work in terms of social distancing, mask wearing, and just keeping safe in general. But yeah, so that's going well. And then I also play soccer. I've been playing soccer since kindergarten. So I've been playing on a team with all of my friends from my original school, which is really nice because I've switched schools a couple of times since I've been in St. Louis. And so it's kind of nice to stay in contact with, the people that you may not have seen for a while because you've just been, at another school and you haven't really had the time to, have as many interactions with them and just talk and just continue to stay friends. But that's definitely nice. But I'm continuing to do that. We had our soccer season kind of cut short because the coach got COVID, and then everything was just kind of out for 2 weeks, and then the soccer season ended. So I really only gotten 4 practices throughout the season, but it's the procedures you have to follow when you get the virus, and so it was still fun while it lasted. I was able to talk to the people that I wanted to talk to, so it was definitely nice.
Yeah, it's been such a crazy year for everybody, but you've like
Yeah,
really adapted well with virtual and Zoom and doing all the fun sports and everything you do. Like I know you we're doing Taekwondo virtually, right, for a little while, and
yeah,
then your violin classes and school on top of that, everything's virtual, and you're killing it, Sam. You're doing a lot, staying
yeah,
busy. You really adapted well
yeah,
to post COVID.
yeah. It's the only way to get past all of this is just to kind of continue life as normally as you can, and just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Adapt. It's what we do. It's our T-shirt this year. There it is. You can go to the Camp No Limits virtual store and purchase that said T-shirt uh, if you would like. Now, Sam, you talked a little bit, and I think because you have this great attitude about um, sort of adapting, and we talk about that a lot as at camp, regardless to a global pandemic. We talk a lot about just adapting and figuring out how to do tasks, how to learn to sort of use your body in the best way that you can to adapt to do activities. But for you too, and we touched about on this a little earlier. You were born with your limb difference. It's sort of been a part of your life the whole time. One of the things that we do hear a lot about from parents and other and campers is getting bullied, getting teased. Did you have experience with that as you kind of went through elementary or in kind of into middle school? Was that any were there any instances of that of you having to deal with those kinds of situations?
Fortunately, no. I've rarely gotten bullied, and I think the only times that it happens, I don't think that the people are intentionally trying to be mean. I think it is more something where they are curious and they don't exactly understand because they may not have seen someone with a limb difference before. Um,
Hmm.
and generally in the occasions that happens when it's more on like a personal like level to me where they are specifically talking to me, it's something that you can address in a way. It's just kind of, you just tell them, sometimes explaining it to them, just kind of what happened, what the reason that my hand is the way it is just the best way to get past their kind of curiousness is just to let them know what is going on, because generally after that, once they have a better understanding, they don't feel the need to just kind of continue to ask you about it. But there is always like at school recently, I saw like some kids in the grade above me were looking at me, and you could tell it was because of my hand. They were whispering to each other, and it's just kind of something that happens. And um, I just think that during those cases, I really just don't, like, obviously I acknowledge it, I register it, but I don't really let it get to me, because as long as you're not on a personal, like, you're not talking to these people as your friends, you don't really have to care, because if someone is your friend, you don't want them to say those type of things about you. But if there's kids who you don't really know and they're just whispering generally out of curiousness, there I don't really feel the need to go over there, start a whole conversation, and have that develop into something that I don't want it to develop into.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I think
generally,
that's no, I think that's a really smart thing, and because I think it is, you know, uh, Graham is sort of giving a thumbs up, saying exactly, you're really on point, for being so young and kind of having a really good attitude about it, because I do think it's learning it is learning that those stairs are going to happen, and knowing that, yeah, I get it. It's something that's going to be there, but then trying to have a positive sense about it, which you do. That I think is the important place for us to continue to encourage our campers, the parents to kind of get to, is that, you know, you don't have to let that be a defining moment in that specific point of time. You can just sort of say, this, I'm not going to allow the fact that this is happening to affect what I'm doing, or the fun I'm trying to have, and you can focus on the moment, focus on the task that you're working on and you're doing. I think that's such a really smart place to be with that.
Yeah, it's really healthy too that you have that
Yeah,
mindset going into it, and it kind of like it's almost like you educate and empower people that do happen to stare, and you're okay with that, and you're confident to do so, and that kind of ties in with our overall mission at Camp No Limits, which is educate, empower, and support. And speaking of Camp No Limits, Sam, how'd you get involved with Camp No Limits and even mixed up with that in the first place?
Yeah, so it's a somewhat interesting story. So my mom, and I believe me as well. This is quite a while ago, so I don't really remember it. But my mom has told me about it. We were basically at kind of like a craft show in Nashville, and one of the workers there is actually the aunt of, I don't know, her name is Jordan Reeves. She's a camper at Camp No Limits. I've known her for a while, um, and her mom's sister was there, and she had noticed my limb difference, and after we had sort of walked off and weren't really like viewing her products as much anymore, she came over and told us about Camp No Limits, and my mom, she gave my mom a flyer of sorts, and my mom figured out about it. And I remember that she showed me like it was the website for Camp No Limits, and she showed it to me. And at first, I was really just kind of like skeptical because it was a really new situation, and I really just wasn't sure how it was going to go down. If it was going to be something like really formal, or if it was going to be something like you don't really get to know the people there. It's more of just a solid learning experience only that doesn't really help you grow as much. Kind of in a interacting with the community manner. But I went that first year, and I was nervous for sure. It was a lot of new people, but I remember there was this one kid whose name was David, who is probably in 7th or 8th grade at the time, and he was so nice. He was just he was there. He kind of explained how things worked to me, and I didn't really understand how everything worked, so it was really nice to have someone there to just kind of show me the ropes and to kind of get used to it. And after that first year, I decided I liked it. It was really nice. It was a learning experience for me. There were a lot of kids like me, and so it was kind of the first time interacting with a community that kind of knew what you had gone through, in a sense, like what you have to do every day um to just get through the day and do what you need to do. So I came back for the second year, and David was not there, which at first was just kind of like, well, that's not great, because he was there the first year. He was there to help me, but I think that was kind of the year where I started to meet more of the families there. And I now know a couple of people. Just like I talk to them every year I go back, and it's really nice because you go there, and it's good to see these people after a year of just kind of not being back in that community that knows what you've gone through. But so it's just like, it's really great to be there, because it's definitely not just a learning alone experience. It's a learning experience, but there's also a sort of emotional aspect where you get to connect with the people that share your experiences, and can give you helpful information that you can apply in your life that you may never have gotten otherwise. And it's just been a really great experience. The virtual Central Camp this summer was my 8th camp, so I've been going for 8 years now.
Oh yeah.
And I definitely don't plan to stop coming. I want to keep being part of this camp and the community itself. It's just it's really great. And that's really just the overview of what it was like for me.
That's more than half your life, Sam.
Yep.
8 years.
I think that's such a, again, just a wise sort of point. We've talked about this with some of the mentors that we've talked to in this sort of not a podcast. Alex and I have talked about this a lot too. As kids growing up, we didn't have that sense of community, that sense of knowing other people who may not have exactly the same limb difference. We might not look exactly the same, but yet they understand. There's a level that you understand. There's a level that you can kind of connect to, and that's so important. I think you really talked about that very eloquently. About you're kind of there, and you're having these emotional experiences that aren't really emotional. It's just you don't really realize it's so emotional when you're there. It's just like, man, I'm just having fun. I'm just being a kid, and then you're like, oh wow, this actually kind of is there's a little bit more going on, which I think is cool that you're really in tune to that. The other thing that you've been really involved in camp is the Inspire program. So can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to go into the Inspire program? And I know you and Alex work closely on that, and so maybe the two of you guys could talk a little bit about that experience. But Sam, yeah, kind of what drew you to that, and how has that been a benefit to you?
Yeah. So not this year of the virtual year, but the year before that, I remember that there were papers being handed out about the Inspire program, and it was a relatively new thing. Like, I had never really heard about it before in the Missouri camp, at least for me. And so I decided it's something that I can use to help me keep on track. It's something I can use to help me keep track of my goals and to have kind of like a deadline for them. And it's been really, really great having Alex as a mentor, just because he said to me many times, if you need help, you can just talk to me, which is really great to know that you kind of have that support if you need it. And you can just, call your mentor and just tell them, I'm having trouble with such and such, and they're just there to help you. And it's just really great for me to, be able to have that resource to use whenever I need it. And so I think it's just really great to have that program there for me to, just be able to achieve my goals and have some support when I need it. And that's just really great for me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Sam. And it's cool that it's almost been a year and a half since that Missouri time when we first started being Inspire Buddies, and how much you've even grown in that year and a half from then and now is like crazy. I feel like you're a teen now. Like you're all grown up. But the point of the Inspire program was to keep each other, mentor and camper relationship, accountable to pursue our goals and everything. So thank you for saying I've been helpful for you to achieving your goals. You've been just as helpful to me in keeping me on track as a mentor and part of our mentor program and everything. So it's been an awesome friendship we've developed, and you've certainly chased so many of your personal goals and everything too. And I hope that everybody watching can also, I hope they feel the same about the Inspire program, and that we get more awesome campers in like you. And speaking of awesome and wise, like Jill and Kelly and Graham were saying on here that you certainly fit the mold for like our as a mentor at Camp No Limits. Do you see yourself in a few years maybe pursuing being a teen mentor or like an adult mentor one day?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's something I want to do mostly because um, I kind of want to give back to, the community that's been giving me so much for the past, 8 years. And to, like, I just think it'd be really cool to, instead of being the person who is, being helped and guided by a mentor, to be the one who is helping and guiding people when they need help. I think it's really great, and that, it's definitely something I want to do because, it's really a great experience for anyone with a limb difference and the families of anyone with a limb difference. And so, I'd like to be sort of a support line if I can and when I can, just to, make sure everything is good, with a person who I would in theory be the mentor to, or, when I reach that point. But it's definitely something I consider.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just really have gotten to go to the Missouri camp the one time, whatever, 2 years ago, before, not this past year because it was virtual, but I think you already have that sense of, and I think everyone that's watching the podcast kind of gets that you have this sort of sense, you have this very wise sense about you, and you could tell even during the camp a couple of years ago, you're already working toward that. You're already encouraging some of these younger campers, helping them work on tying shoes, helping them work on doing what other activities might be happening, encouraging them to go and get out and swim, or go out and do the what is the trail thing up there in Missouri that everyone goes and does. I didn't do it. You know what I'm talking about? What's the thing?
The Alpine Tower, the huge. Is it the? Are you talking about the huge tower that you have to?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called the Alpine Tower, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
really fun.
Oh,
It's crazy, but it's really fun.
but it's fun. I know, and like it was like I didn't know for some reason when we're back in Missouri, I'm going to have to do it. You'll have to encourage me to go and do it, Sam. It will be your thing. Now, we've been interviewing a lot of our adult mentors on this Not a Podcast, and usually we ask them this question about, like, if you could go back and talk to your teenage self, what advice would you give? And since you are almost you're in this sort of like teenage self now, we're gonna frame it a little bit different. And if you could come face to face with yourself at 30, what do you hope that you're doing? What do you hope that you know?
I think number one, kind of jumping back to the mentor question, I do help. I hope that I'm a mentor and that I'm, helping people out in the camp community. But I also hope that, I'm whatever I may be doing at that point, when I'm 30, is that it's something that I want to do and that it's something that I enjoy doing, so that I'm not, stuck in a position where I don't like many things about, what I do, on a day-to-day basis. I want to be doing something that keeps my life, interesting and something that I enjoy doing. And I hope I know just more about how to adapt to a wider variety of situations, because, I already know how to do a lot of things just after learning over 8 years, but there's definitely going to be new things that I have to figure out as I, continue getting older. But I think I hope that I'm able to adapt and, be able to do everything that I set my mind to, and just find a way to do it and to, achieve what I want to achieve, regardless of, the disability that I have. And, but yeah, that's kind of where I hope I'll be, just in a good situation, doing something that I like, and, continuing to, be a part of Camp No Limits and help anyone that I can.
That's cool.
Sam, I feel like oh
Go ahead.
oh I was gonna say with everything we know about you, I feel like you're gonna achieve all that and more. You know, like you're gonna get it all. Your dad here in the chat box is saying he hopes you're not living at home when you're 30, but there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so nothing wrong with that at all.
Nothing. Listen, let's hope we don't have another plague that affects the world the way it does. But I think you're right. I think, and that's always a part of a sense of finding passion within your work, being able to sort of move in a direction of work that you wanna do that. And I think, as you're saying, that's contributing in some way. I think that's a noble goal. And I know you're super smart, and I know you're going to work really hard, and I know you take your education and your academics seriously. So that's going to be that other important part of that too, is giving yourself those options to really explore and really find what is that career that I'm going to be passionate about, because I think that is a very important thing for us too. So we're just about to start wrapping up. So I think Alex may have one last little question here.
Sam, do you think you could provide our amazing guest with some advice? Do you have any advice you want to give to our Camp No Limits family and friends? Close this out.
It's a little bit different when it's like all of the adult mentors just have all this stuff ready to say. But I think one thing that I'd like to say to both parents and kids is that you shouldn't be afraid to reach out to anyone in the Camp No Limits community, because, in my experiences, people have just been there to help me. And a lot of times it wasn't even me asking. It was just kind of like there already. It wasn't something that I had to say. Like, sometimes it was. Sometimes I had to say, I don't really know how to do this. Do you have any ideas how I can? But some other times it's just been like something that's addressed within camp itself, or something that's already done. Like, if we're about to do something kind of different that you may not have done before, it's already kind of there. Like, there's already those adaptations ready for you, just to be there. So definitely use the community, and then also talk to anyone you can during camp, because everyone has advice that they can share just from their own personal experiences that may not be addressed in like a meeting that we may have during camp, but they would know it. And if you need any specific information, something like that, where it's kind of a specific thing, a lot of the families would know about it, mine included. If there's something that you need to know, I mean, I've had this, limb difference for 13 years. I generally understand most of the stuff that you need to do, at least my age, just being able to do that stuff. And then there's kind of the last thing. It's not really, I guess it's somewhat cliche almost, but be yourself just in the real world. There's no reason that you need to hide your disability. And sometimes you will have to, and even I still do sometimes, just when I'm in new situations. It's not really something that I want to bring up, but it'll eventually become something. If you're going to continue doing this thing, whatever it may be, an activity or talking with a new person, it's going to come up at some point. So don't worry about sort of the judgment that comes behind it, because number one, you have the people at camp to help you through anything that you need to get help through. But then also, if you're talking with a person and they say those type of things that just aren't great, then they're really not the type of person that you should be spending time with, because if they don't accept you, you can try your best to make them understand, or to help them to understand. But if they just don't, it's not really someone that you may want to continue interacting with, because they're not really beneficial to you as a person, and your emotional your feelings aren't going to get any better by interacting with those type of people. So just don't be afraid to hide behind hide your limb difference from other people, because it can be a huge, like almost a huge telling sign that the people who actually care about you will not think of you any differently or judge you for something like that. Those are the people that you really do want to spend time with, because they are beneficial to you, and just you continuing your day-to-day life. But that's really just kind of the small things that I would say would just help you out generally in your life.
Sam, remember a
Wise.
couple questions back when we said, do you want to be an adult mentor one day? I think we should just really bridge that, like cut out the gap of the age restriction. And I think you're hired as mentor right now. Like you have
Thank you,
everything
Alex.
that we inspire in our mentors to have. And I love what you said. All three things basically: be proud of who you are, be you, and stay connected, right? With everybody, not just Camp No Limits family, but this community. It's a big community, and what better time to stay connected than right now?
Yeah.
I think, and
Well
I
said,
know,
Sam.
and I think, yeah, I think you're right, Sam. Too. It's finding those, and you touched on this earlier. You're going to find people that are going to be curious. It is uh, anomaly. I think is a word your mom used earlier when she was talking. I think it is. It is that, and sometimes that's going to happen. And some days it is okay to feel like I don't want to have to deal with this, and my hand, is going to be in my pocket for this little experience. That's the way I want to feel, and it's valid to feel that way. But at the same time, I think your words are so wise that it's going to come up at some point. You're going to have to carry your lunch tray, or you're going to have to open your book bag. You're going to have to do something. You're going to have to if you have lower limb difference, you're going to have to I don't know, if you fall down a hill or something and your leg goes flying, and you're gonna have to say, oh well, this is this is the truth, guys. That's Nate Sims' story. Is that he didn't say anything because he fell off a snowboard or something and his leg went flying. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, that's a terrible injury. He's like, no guys, it's just my
I'm
prosthetic,
good.
just my
I'm good.
prosthetic. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're gonna come up, and so you want to be around people that the core of you is what they care about. Your humanity is what they care about. So work to find those relationships. That's such good advice. We've taken some time. I want to thank everyone who has watched us. Thank you for your patience earlier with the technical difficulties of whatever Alex's internet had. We don't know. We're going to work on that. But Sam, thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you so much for just being so cool,
Yeah.
coming and chatting with us. We really
Professor
appreciate it.
Sam Paulka, you're the man.
And
Thank you.
we're gonna dance it out. But everyone, please take a look at Camp No Limits. We have exciting news coming up very very soon. Things are moving forward. We're excited to kind of keep moving to empower, educate, and support. So thank you so much. I'm gonna play us out.